Obviously, we've got a big game this week. We go down to Heinz Field there on Saturday, about a 50-minute drive, and we're excited to get down there and play and compete against a good football team. You know, I think a lot of people may have paid more attention to a lot of the things that have went on with all the coaching changes down there, as opposed to really what kind of quality team it is. You know, you look at last year. I think one of the biggest indicators for me is you know, I looked at the West Virginia game, and they held West Virginia to 21 points. And you guys saw what West Virginia did to Clemson in the bowl game. I mean, Clemson would have loved to held them to 21. You know, so that gives me a little bit of perspective as far as how talented this football team is. You know, you look at obviously on the offensive side of the ball, all of their offensive linemen are coming back with experience, so there's going to be a confidence level there. They're getting back to doing the things that they like to do, and you know, obviously Paul Christ has had tremendous success at Wisconsin. He was at Illinois when I was there, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. I think he's a great hire for the University of Pittsburgh, and he'll do a great job there. You know, quarterback, they've got a returner there. That, you know, obviously last year he probably was frustrated at times with the amount of sacks that, you know, he was exposed to. And so that, you know, tells me that that offensive line has a chip on their shoulder and something to prove. And obviously at quarterback, you know, Paul's going to be directly involved with him and doing things that he feels that he can do to win football games, which he's has a track record of doing. At receiver, you know, you got Street there and Shanahan. Those guys are returning starters and obviously very explosive players. And then you jump back into the backfield there. You've got a stable of running backs that's as strong as most teams, you know, in the top 25. And you know, whether it's Graham or Bennett or Shell, those guys are all very good football players. It shows up, you know. And I think at tight end they got a kid named Huey Graham that was with us at Illinois that transferred there after we had a assistant coaching change there at Illinois. And I think you jump over to the defensive side of the ball, you know, West Virginia didn't have a 100-yard rusher, really struggled for the most part of the day, and I think it all starts up front. You know, Donald Aaron there, he's the, you know, the guy that starts with up front. He's very disruptive. He loves to jump the football. He likes to get in those cracks there in between the guard and tackle and make things happen. He likes to play in your backfield. He's a guy you have to constantly be aware of, and you know, he's flanked by some other guys that are very good players also. You know, they're all 280, 290, 300 pounds, which, you know, are guys that have all played, and they are, you know, I think their defense starts with their front. At linebacker, they got Shane Gordon there and Grigsby. Grigsby's an Ohio product. Shane Gordon's out of Florida, and those guys are obviously very fast, like to play downhill, and they can get to the football. And you know, and you look back in the secondary, you got Paul, who's a Cardinal Mooney product here from locally, and then you know, at corner they got some guys that they feel good about. You know, they've been talking about them all during camp, and so it's a good football team. And you know, I think it'll be an exciting environment for our players. It's obviously Heinz Field. It'll be a night game. There'll be a lot of emotion there, and you know, I think it's a relatively quick trip for us. And it's a great opportunity to line up and play against a good football team that I know will be very well coached.
Coach, on the defensive side of the football for you guys, what do you feel is the biggest difference for this group as you move into this season versus, you know, last year's?
Well, I think you got to start with Coach Tracy. You know, he has tremendous passion for the game of football. He demands it on every play. I sense there's a lot more accountability in our secondary than there ever has been, and that's why we hired him. You know, we needed to be more accountable for the way we practiced and the way we played on game day in the secondary. You know, we had some injuries in the past that, you know, were somewhat devastating to our group. We now feel like we have some more depth there, and hopefully we can, just stay healthy, so we can play at a higher level, specifically at the end of the game. That's something that we've been talking about. We've added some more depth. Coach Cochran's done a great job of developing our players. We're bigger and stronger and faster than we ever have been. I think you guys have seen that have come out to practice. So, we expect to play a lot better on defense.
What's been the biggest difference in the team that you see today than you saw walking off the field against Missouri State?
Well, I think the Missouri State game was a great lesson for us, just understanding that you need to appreciate this game. You need to respect this game that we play. Anybody can be anybody on any given day, and it made us a hungry football team. I mean, we're a hungry football team. There's no doubt about it. There's no way to skirt around it. This team's a hungry football team, and we're going to do whatever it takes to go out and find a way to have success. And I sense that we have a significant better understanding of what it means to prepare during the week. Even last year, I still felt at times we had to continue to push and push and push, and that's our job as coaches. But now I see a lot more players stepping up in leadership roles when maybe things aren't going well in a period during practice. Guys will step up and get it corrected or straightened out or address it, as opposed to myself having to intervene or blow a gasket like I've been known to do. And that's a sign of a team maturing and getting older. And last year we were still a pretty young football team. We had a lot of young guys playing. We had a lot of young guys that have played around here by default. And that's one of the things that we have right now still, is we have some guys that played as freshmen that aren't playing right now. Now they got to work and compete, and another guy comes in and takes your job. It's a competitive atmosphere, and that's what we want as coaches, and I think it'll make us better as a football team.
How about just, maybe this is the shortest trip you've had in terms of just driving? Is that a nice change?
Yes, it is. There's no way to hide it. That's why I visited with the 49ers so much, and even the Giants, about just in the off season, about the travel. This is a quick trip for us. This is like a home game in some aspects, as far as it's not far away, and we get a chance to sleep in our own bed and get up and go play the game we love. But it is a road game, but it's a lot more convenient than flying halfway across the country.
Eric, would you prefer to play this type of game later in the season to kind of make improvements, or where you played is fine?
I love playing the game. I mean, I think some people don't like it, probably have concerns, and I think, I embrace it. I love the opportunity. I think it's great for us to give our athletes a chance to play in Heinz Field. Obviously, it's an NFL stadium. Get a chance to play a team with tremendous tradition, a good football team. At the same time, you get a chance to, do some recruiting. You can talk about, a lot of the kids we have on this football team that are from Pennsylvania, they didn't get recruited by Pitt, so it's an opportunity for them to go down and play in front of their hometown people. But Western Pennsylvania has been a really good area for us in recruiting. It's a blue-collar work ethic area, and family's important, and those people are very passionate about the things that they do, and those are the kind of people we want to surround ourselves with here at Youngstown State.
Coach, how much do you think you've overall closed the talent gap for a game like this?
Well, we'll find out on Saturday, you know what I mean? But I feel good about our ball club. We have a good football team. I think you guys know that. We know that. We need to stay healthy. But we have a good football team. We're going to play hard and compete, and let the cards fall where they may. But we'll see what happens. But I think we're getting closer. I think what a lot of people don't realize, though, is in our league, you better have people that can play, you know, at that level of football. Because, you know, you look at North Dakota State, you know, they just won the national championship. Now, last year they beat Minnesota pretty handily. The year before they beat Kansas. You know, this Saturday they're going to probably beat Colorado State. So, you know, we're not talking about Akron or Kenton. I mean, we're talking about, you know, a legitimate 118. So my point is you've got to have guys that you think can play at a lower Big Ten school, lower Big 12 school. You know, you better be in that arena. You know, a MAC player isn't gonna get what you need in the Missouri Valley.
Coach Kurt said, obviously you guys believe you can win, and you believe that, you know, every time you step on the field, but Kurt said he gets the feeling from people outside the program that they believe that you guys can win this game. What do you account for that, or why do you think people feel that way?
Well, I think the casual observer or the fan that, you know, 3 years ago you guys asked me if we'd score a touchdown. I thought that was the most bizarre question that I've ever had. I was like, yeah, we're going to score a touchdown. You know, it's just a process of changing the way that people, what they expect when they see Youngstown State play. Last year, you know, we knew we had to possess the football against Michigan State because they're a very good football team. And we knew we had to try to find a way to get to the fourth quarter. And, you know, we had the ball 5 times in the 45. We just didn't get enough touchdowns, you know. You guys know the rule about 7 and 3. I mean, it's simple math. You got to score touchdowns in the red zone when you get down there. And over that process, though, I think the players had started to believe that, hey, you know, maybe these coaches know what they're talking about. Maybe they have some pretty good schemes, you know. They've been a few places, have some success, and if we just execute and kind of follow their lead, we'll have a chance. And as we've physically developed, which you've seen, we're a significantly different looking football team. So now I think we can legitimately expect to go down there and compete at a high level.
Coach, is it tough to gauge what Pitt will do just because of the new coaches, or maybe because you know Coach Chris, you kind of know what he's going to do?
Well, I mean, he was at Wisconsin when I was there in Illinois, you know, and, you know, I used to watch Coach Chris film even when we weren't playing Wisconsin, just because I think he's a great offensive mind. I just love to study the game of football. And I think you have to continue to find ways to be creative offensively. And that's something that he's done. It's, you know, it's well documented how well his offenses have performed in the past. And, you know, I expect them to do what they did at Wisconsin. At the same time, you know, you may not have as many tight ends or fullbacks that you had at Wisconsin. So you may see some more 11 personnel than you had seen in the past, whereas opposed to Wisconsin would like to be in 12 and 22 and 3 tight end sets. So, you know, when you dissect their roster, you know, I'm not going to tell you what I'm thinking, but I expect them to be creative and utilize your best 11 on the field. You know, you're not going to line up with 3 tight ends if you feel like you have a couple receivers over there standing next to you that are playmakers. So, you know, with that being said, I think you have to have an understanding that this guy knows what he's doing, and he's going to use his best personnel groups along with some of the things that he's carried over from what he's done in the past. And then defensively, you know, they hired Huxtable, who was at Wisconsin last year, but he also has a track record of being a defensive coordinator at Central Florida. So, you know, I think you have to watch a lot of film and make some educated guesses. And, you know, we're all creatures of habit. We get back to doing the things that we like to do. And off of every single play that you run, there's complementary plays that you're setting up for that game or the game next week, you know. So that's part of the game and the gamesmanship that we play.
Coach, going into this kind of a big-time atmosphere, how do you loosen these guys up? How do you take the pressure out of them for?
You know, when we arrive, we'll go walk the stadium. You know, I think that's something that's important to do when you're in that type of arena, so you can get the guys to get all that looking around and checking things out and looking at those kind of things. And, you know, I'm sure they'll see all those Super Bowl trophies, you know, that the Steelers have won and those kind of things. But, you know, get all that kind of stuff out of the way So that way when we go back into the locker room, we're able to flip the switch. Okay, it's now to go to the game time. But I allow them about 10 minutes out there to kind of just get all that ooh ah out of you, you know, looking around. And then we'll go in there and flip the switch and get ourselves ready to play.
Coach Janane and Kurt both talked about the potential impact of improved depth on this football team. Would you address that?
Well, I think anytime you have more depth, you can play more guys. You know, and after we looked at last year, you know, really the last 2 years, we need to play better in the fourth quarter. And if you play more guys during the course of the game, I think you'll be fresher at the end of the game. You know, and we feel like we have some really good quality number twos, and at some positions 3s and 4s, that we should be able to play a bunch of guys during the course of the game and then be fresher at the end of the game. You know, if you don't feel good about your backup guard or your backup tackle, and you're in a ball game, you know, as a coach, you're pretty tight, and you're not wanting to really put that guy in there. You know, it's easier said than done. If you don't feel real comfortable that your number 2 or 3 running back has great ball security, you know, are you going to put him in the game at a crucial time? Because if he goes in there and fumbles, then the head coach is going to be down there crawling all over you, you know. So that maturity on our part and just getting better and developing more depth, you know, I think you have to get players to develop. You know, I think a classic example of player development here is you know, DJ Maine. When DJ Maine was here, he was 250 pounds. You know, he was skinny, you know, didn't understand eating, didn't understand the weight room. And 2 years later, look at him now. You know, look at Torian Pace. Torian Pace is a guy that, shoot, we didn't even pay for his summer school 1 year because, you know, we just had to get him working on more flexibility and doing the things he needed to do to be a good player. Right now, Torian Pace is in the game. You're not missing a beat. He's 245 pounds. He's a big back, and that's a compliment to him. Is player development. Look at Kurt Hess. Kurt Hess is 230 pounds now. Kurt Hess didn't walk in here looking like that. I mean, that guy's been developed. That's part of just maturing as a football team is getting your players to buy in and develop their bodies, so that way you can play this game and have legitimate expectations of playing at a high level.
Other than July being out, are you healthy heading into this one?
We're healthy. We're ready to go. You know, had a good camp. The kids have been great. Yesterday we practiced in the rain. Everybody's like, "Why do you have indoor?" Well, because it might rain. We were out there in the rain. It was pouring down, and I kept on looking at that indoor. But I said, "This is the right thing to do. You know, you got to know how to handle a wet ball. You got to know how to run routes. And when the ball's wet, I mean, when the ground's wet, and you got to know how to throw it when it's wet too, because it might rain."
Scouting report on Ray Vinipal for the Moody fans. What do you see from him?
He's a good player, you know. Obviously, he played at Michigan as a freshman. Went there last year, sat out. You know, I'm sure he'll be excited to play. And you know, it's a big game for all those type of kids because of bragging rights. You know, whether it's Ray Venipal or Christian Bryant. I mean, Christian Bryant grew up right there in Pittsburgh. Don DeLisio and Ray. You know, so there's a lot of little you know, nuances, I guess you'd say, or potential bragging rights there for those guys. But you know, we're excited about going down there and compete. You know, you guys know the University of Pittsburgh. It's a great place, great city, great arena, great environment. You know, it's going to be on TV, and you know, I think we'll have a lot of people in red down there. All indications are we're going to have a good crowd, and you know, rightfully so, they'll be excited because you know, I think Paul Chris is the right guy for the job. He's got the community excited, and you know, he seems like a Pittsburgh guy.